Hello everybody and welcome to the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League here from Virginia International Raceway tonight. It is round 7 of our sprint series as we bear down on the end of the season already. It feels like only a few weeks ago since we were beginning the story all the way back at Circuit of the Americas to begin this championship season. Well, this time around we've come over to VIR for the latest round of our championship. Myself, Ewan O'Leary, Jeremy Scott taking you through commentary with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this broadcast tonight. And the big story is no LMP2s on the grid. Those drivers are eligible to race in the other categories, but they are not in LMP2. So, a changed 7th round of the season this time around. The Virginia International Raceway Endurance is coming up this weekend. Following that, we'll be back live here for Racesport TV again at Motorsport, and then at Road America to round out the season, or our season anyway, at the sprint rounds before 2 more longer races before the end of the season in early June. As I mentioned, the championship standings are very much up for grabs now with the end of the season in sight, but these won't be changing today. Matt Smudman leading by 20 points in front of Justin Bessett and Elias Roman, who've given him some real challenge over this season. Jonathan Labby and Tanner Masters round out the top 5, with Jacob Little and Louis Rios tied on points for 6th place. Zachary Besh and Trevor Leitch round out those who scored points. In the 992.2 category, Chris Glandon and Martin Wallace could not be any closer after 4 rounds of this championship. They are on 105 each in front of Stephen Rayner, who rounds up top 3. Cameron Lackney and John Salada running out the top 5. Tyler Guillemet, Scott Andrews, Nicholas Salaputis and Skylar Vickroy round out those who scored points in 992.2 as well. Chance Sheffield leads by some way in GT3, dominating now in front of Damian Castro. Casey Sobel rounding out the top 3 in front of Jason McSparron, Richard Davenport, Nolan Duke, David Bell in the GT3 standings. And in GT4, Tyler Manning beginning to run away with it as well. Andrew Cooper is next in front of Nicholas Batista. Zach Merrill, Kyle Shelton running out the top 5 with Peter Hitzman, Charles St. Pierre. Unfortunately, Mason Cardinal not been able to be at as many rounds as we all would have hoped this season. Has slipped to 8th as a result in front of Brian Burkhart, who rounds out the field in GT4. And as a reminder, it's not just the car classes, but the driver classifications are a big part of this as well. There are beneficiary class drivers who are enrolled as Operation Motorsport beneficiaries. Pro beneficiary class drivers are enrolled as an Operation Motorsport beneficiary as well, but also meet the pro class requirements, which are at the bottom. The open class drivers are any serving military member or veteran not enrolled as an Operation Motorsport beneficiary, any staff member, volunteer or supporter of Operation Motorsport, or other participants on a case-by-case basis as determined by the eMotorsports manager. And for those pro class drivers, a competition license holder, past or present in IMSA, SRO, FEL or other sanctioning body, iRacing, A-class road license, an iRating of 1900 or higher, and a safety rating of 3.99 or higher as well. They are in the blue on your screens. You can see those colours next to the name as well. So pros in blue, open in red, pro ben in purple, beneficiaries in green. Not all of the classes in all of the car classes, you may be relieved to note, and of course no LMP2s in this field in any case. Qualifying just underway. The drivers making their way around on the outlap. Good evening, Jeremy. Good to be alongside you. I'm looking forward to seeing how a lack of LMP2s is really going to change the racing here today. Unfortunately, it has given us lower numbers. It looks like most of those who are not in the LMP2 class, those who are in the LMP2 class have not decided to join us in any of the other classes. I do wonder, though, quite apart from that, just how that the lack of prototypes is just going to change things a little bit here over the course of these 45 minutes, because I'm sure that it will do in some way.
It will indeed, Ewan, and good evening to you as well. I kind of questioned the reasoning behind running the LMP2s, but it was a little bit of a glitch. So either way, I think, we are seeing some of the LMP2 drivers making their way into the 992s, as I did see Justin Bissett, one of them. Elias Roman's is in his number 99. So we will see some healthy fields in the 992.2. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Here's Charles St. Pierre going for his flyer. Fastest lap he has so far on his warm-up, actually, at a 2:05 at 6:14. And here's the thing: if you get a chance to go to a race at VIR, and I know this is where Operation Motorsport does their year-end event here, they actually have a race to remember at VIR. It's absolutely beautiful. Paul Newman said it's heaven on earth, and indeed it is. It's an absolutely gorgeous facility.
It's so unique as well. I mean, there's some unique places in America for road racing, but this is right up there. Of course, very sadly, no longer with the oak tree on the inside of turn 12 anymore. It was shot down by lightning, rather unfortunately, a few years ago. Might be quite a few years ago now, but it's an iconic place on this racetrack, and the fact there's just no room for error around here, it's one of my favourite racetracks, not in terms of driving, actually. I find it very irritating, mainly because I keep falling off the road, but that is my fault. It's very entertaining to watch, though, because especially in the real world, you've got what I would describe as absolutely no room for error in terms of running wide through here. Grass lines this circuit all the way round, but in a lot of places, not the case absolutely everywhere, but in a lot of cases, the barriers are a long way away from the racetrack as well, which ultimately makes it very safe. So it's the perfect mix, in my opinion. Making sure there's no room for error, but making sure there's as few big accidents as possible as well, although there are a few places where it can still happen, of course, because it is a racetrack. But as I say, it does not give any room for error at all. And that's what makes this racetrack just so challenging for everybody. It doesn't matter what class of car you're in.
Yeah, it really does. And, you really got to be on the game. Of course, you see the drivers working their way down roller coaster, then through Hog Pen. A lot of things can go wrong, especially coming into Horseshoe. And some drivers don't realize that there's a little bit of a slight bank here to turn one. And of course, you see drivers working their way, and they can slide off and almost high center themselves around one NASCAR bend. That's probably about the only place you'll really be able to not have to work too hard to hit guardrails. You see right there, there's some tire walls there through NASCAR bend and into left hook, and then you set up back there for the snake. And one of the coolest features of this racetrack are, of course, the S's through South Bend, as you see Tyler Manning making his way around into Oak Tree here. And yeah, while it's sad to not have Oak Tree there, I'll admit, I that fell the weekend before I was supposed to start to actually go there for the first time, so I never got a chance to see it in person, which it is a darn shame.
It is. I'm trying to find the year that it was struck down. I said a few years ago, meaning I meant like 2 or 3. I probably mean about 10. But 2017 was about 2 years ago. I think. So I think that's about right. But anyway, it is a real shame. Nevertheless, still has a lot of history, a lot of character. This place opened for the very first time back in the 1950s, after. And was closed for quite a period since then as well, actually. But hasn't been around through all of that time. That isn't exactly running up to 70 years of operation, but it is running up to a 70th year anniversary, and that is well deserved. And yeah, great that it's changed so little over that time as well. Even facilitating still IMSA sports car racing, although admittedly only with the GTDs. No, I can't remember the last time prototypes went around here. Probably a while ago, I would guess.
I saw it this morning. Let me pull it up. But
okay.
Have you ever seen the video just before they completely rehabbed this track on YouTube? It was released 12, 13 years ago, I think.
I think I have, but a while ago. Yeah, it must have been a while ago because it is quite, quite wild.
Yeah, it was really wild because this like 98, 99 because it reopened obviously in 2000, and I think 2012 was the last time prototypes. Actually, no, it was 2013 because I was at the last ALMS race in support, and actually Lucas Luhr. If you can imagine this, Ewan, 36.112 with a 1, obviously, and one of the very first HPD ARXs in LMP1. That's the track record around here.
Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it, really, that used to happen, to be honest, because I don't know how those cars would stack up against today's top prototypes. Maybe a bit slower, maybe, but, not slow. By any means. So that's and by the way, 135 laps that race was long. That's a long day out. But yes, that is the track record around here in any car. What I want to know is, and maybe there's an obvious answer to this that I'm missing slightly. I've got to admit, I really, really like the long racetrack that encompasses a turn onto what I'm going to describe as an infield. Around here, and then obviously through lots of twisty bits, and then back out onto what we recognise, I suppose, as the main racetrack. It feels almost like a mini Nordschleife when you add that in, but for some reason it's almost never added in. I guess for racing purposes, it does take away the best overtaking chance up here, down into this corner, or up, I should say, into this braking zone, turn 14, and the roller coaster back down the other side. But just make for a very interesting course, I think, turning down to the inside like that, but it is very, very rarely used.
I remember there was one year IMSA actually announced that they were going to use the full circuit. So I think it was, were they going to go off of Madison Avenue or were they going to go off of 7? I can't remember, but either way, they were going to use obviously the outer track like we know and love, and then, jut over somewhere into the infield, but it never really got FIA approval for that. So it is a shame as well. I would honestly, why not do a 24-hour club race there, whether it's WRL or Champ Car? That would be interesting.
That is what we're talking about. That's my kind of thing anyway. So there you go. Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about the other entrance. Of course, turn 7 you can go right as well. It's where you cut off quite a lot of the racetrack if you've got a slow car, maybe an MX-5 or something. Just cut off half the racetrack and it makes it palatable. But yeah, you could turn right there and then left in through the infield and whatever, and then you don't take away that overtaking chance on the back straight either. So there you go. You can have the best of both worlds. But there you go. We can dream on about that for the moment. Qualifying seems to be just about complete. 18 drivers with a time on the board, and Nolan Yuke, the fastest of them. This seems to be, and we see this battle constantly, don't we? We talk about this battle week in, week out, behind the LMP2s who get their own start, of course. They run off ahead of the others to start these races, and the GTs all start in amongst one another. The GT3s, or at least Nolan Yuke, just about faster than the fastest 992. That goes to Justin Bessett, but it's mightily close again. Only just over a tenth this time round. And, this time, I think the exciting thing, as much as we mourn the loss of the LMP2s for this round, we are going to see a very exciting battle for the race win, I think, with 2 different car classes because of the way the driver classes are assigned. And we've got some even better pros, I would maybe argue, in the 992.2s this week, and that's going to be exciting, I think, for the battle for the race win here tonight.
And here's the thing too. I think the GT3s will win out a little bit better because they've got 3 great opportunities to keep the 992s at bay. It's the 1 through 5 complex around Oak Tree, and then roller coaster into Hog Pen. So that's going to be something to watch with the extra downforce with the GT3s.
Absolutely, going to be a fascinating race, that is for sure. Tight and twisty racetrack, difficult to overtake, but we've got different car classes around, then could be a whole different ballgame. Tyler Manning, by the way, in GT4, looks like he's taken pole there, over a second ahead of Zach Merrill at the end of that session, or the end of their laps, I should say. They've still got time remaining in the session, but no laps remaining either. But yeah, Tyler Manning's starting to run away with it, isn't he? It's a shame that Mason Cardinale has not been here more often, because at the race he was at, Watkins Glen, he did beat Tyler Manning, and it looked like throughout a long season, those two would be very evenly matched. But Tyler Manning has been rather allowed to run away with it recently.
Yeah, we'll see how that all plays out with Manning out here, basically dominating. Take a look how good he was at Barber. Now you see how good he is here. It's going to be very interesting these 45 minutes to see how that all plays out, especially with pit strategy.
Yeah, indeed. There is a pit stop in this race, even though it's only 45 minutes in length. It does require a pit stop with the fuel limitations that we have in this series. It's brought a bit more into line, actually, after the opening round at... I can't remember the round. I think the round was Barber, actually, where we had the most chopping and changes in terms of the pit strategy and whatever. It's been unified since then. Let's have a look at the starting grids then, shall we? Throughout the three classes, starting with the overall pole sitter. And that's going to be Nolan Nuke in that BMW M4 GT3. It's Jason McSparrow alongside him, with Richard Davenport and Chance Sheffield sharing row 2. Already over a second off pole back here, by the way. Dave Bell and Damien Castro will then share row 3. And Casey Sobel, the last of the 7 GT3s. The most numerous class is the 992.2s, and Justin Bessett has taken pole from them. He's second in the LMP2 Championship standings. Tyler Guillemet, who is a 992.2 driver, is alongside him, with Martin Wallace and Zachary Page sharing row 2. Then it's Louis Rios and John Salada, both, certainly Rios' case is, a LMP2 driver. And then Elias Roman, also an LMP2 driver, third in the standings, bringing up the rear in 992.2. Then it is the GT4s. Tyler Manning, Zach Merrill, Nicolas Batista and Charles St. Pierre in the field. I was hoping Andrew Cooper might race as well, but he hasn't set a time in qualifying, and so we will see whether he gets in for the race, but may not happen for him here tonight. We will wait and see. Qualifying just about to draw to a close. They are waiting on somebody by the sounds of things, so we'll continue to just hang around for a moment. Everybody got a long time to think about their run down in towards turn number 1, which we comment every week. It's a real battle between the GT3s and the 992.2s, and it's going to be absolutely no different this week.
I'm glad to see that Cameron's back over there at that corner station. If you remember back in 2013, that's where that Porsche GT Challenge car ended up on top of the barriers, scaring my mother half to death because she thought that was me, manning that camera. And I told her, if we're manning a camera, we've got bigger problems than a car ending up on top of the wall. But either way, qualifying done and dusted. We're gridding up here, and I'm really excited to see what we can do in 45 minutes. I was hoping, with the LMP2s gone, it's still going to be a fantastic race because you're going to have a lot of fast drivers up near the front, especially the 992.2s.
Yeah, indeed. They're completely mixed up, as you can see, as they grid here on the in the pit lane, actually, as they do here. Just after 3 p.m, 3:30 indeed in the afternoon, down in the 11th of November, so not likely to see very, very warm temperatures. It's not the warmest place in the world, I suppose, here generally, but you can get hot days anywhere. So
you want hot, go there in like June, July, you will roast. So I'm glad that we're having these temperatures now.
Yeah, November. Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking in the context of America. You could go warmer, but not in November, I suppose. It's not that warm today. 23 Celsius. For those who need the Fahrenheit conversion, by the way, that's 74, mid-70s Fahrenheit. So far today, only likely to get cooler. It looks like we have everybody on the grid, including Cooper, maybe, at the back end of the field. I think that's him. I can see down there on the grid. We'll find out in a moment when they come out of pit lane. Bizarrely, they grid up at double file, and then they have to single file out to get out the pit lane here. It's not the widest in the world, not the biggest pit lane in the world, but we don't need it tonight, as the 19 drivers, hopefully, all make their way out of the pit lane and onto the grid. And indeed, Cooper is indeed going to join us. So all 19 drivers who are in the session are in on the grid and rolling already and warming up the tyres, ready for that run down in towards turn number 1. Feels like a little bit of a free hit today, a little bit of a sort of day that doesn't count, a non-championship race. Of course, it is none of those things. This race absolutely does count, but the fact there are no LMP2s apart, it's the fact the LMP2 drivers are in some of these other classes, namely the 992.2 category, makes it have a little bit of a non-championship feel, to be honest, and should be a bit of fun. We're not going to see, well, we're going to see things that we haven't seen so far this season, and may not see in the last weeks of the season as well, if we continue with the LMP2s just as we have done at the start of this season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these 992.2 drivers who are normally your LMP2 drivers, how they're going to work their way through having to actually deal with GT traffic. Not as much, I mean, a lot more than what they're used to. So, you know, I'm excited to see how this race plays out. I know there were a lot of upset drivers on the change, but some of them making the best of it. So we'll see how this all plays out as we're working our way through the S's. And you see the drivers warming up their tires. If you're a fan of Top Gear, you should know what that those buildings are to the right. That's where the boys stayed when they were here for a NASA event to do track days with their cars.
That's how I remember. But there you go. Just going up towards where the oak tree used to be. Turns 11 and 12. Not the most spectacular corner in the world, I suppose, but there you go. It did have a tree on the inside of it, so there you go. It is an important corner, though, as unspectacular as it is. It decides your run all the way down this straight, the very long straight, by far the longest on this racetrack, before you come into the roller coaster. Initially a plunge uphill in towards 14, and then back down the other side again in towards that final turn as well. On the front two rows, it's pretty much GT3s lined up on the inside and 992.2s on the outside. But the outside, I've got to say, I've found here at VIR down the years, not a place you really want to be coming in towards turn 1.
Yeah, you definitely want to be as inside as you can, because that corner comes up on you real quick and it tightens up the deeper that you get into it. I mean, you look at the map and it looks like, oh, you're tying the first apex. No, you still got to get to turn 2, which is only a couple hundred meters away from there. But, you know, it still sets you up for a good run through NASCAR Bend. But now we're going down roller coaster, Hawk Pen. Man, this could be a lot of fun.
Certainly is. And in control of the field, Nolan Nuke will get us underway very, very shortly here from Virginia. Come round the final turn, and the pace car will pull in. And we're ready to go for 45 minutes of racing. Nuke waits. He waits for the green flag up in front. Everybody on the front straight, everybody packed up nicely, everybody very eager to get going, as you can see, as they run up towards the line. And now finally they can all go. Green flag waves quite late there, and they can see the fanning out in the background, 3 wide, as they all look for some space coming down towards turn 1. It's Uke on the inside line with Bessett on the outside, and he rather cleverly tucks in straight away here to allow Nolan Uke to lead the field around. Then it's Bessett in second place. Then you've got Max Barron, who goes for a spin. Not sure whether there was contact with Tyler Guillemet, but he goes off through NASCAR Bend.
Able to bounce off that tire wall there and get back going. Of course, McSparron missing at least the last round, so not a good start for him. But either way, you see Nolan Uke pulling out to a pretty healthy advantage there, as Justin Bissett trying to hold off Guillemet for the lead in 992.2. Not too far away from there, you've got Wallace sitting back there in third place. So 2, 3, 4. Look at how these cars are jumping, coming around turn number 8. You're seeing the air, and it absolutely looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's a fantastic set of corners as Wallace goes to the inside of Guillemet and goes straight through. Was there contact here or not? No. It was the camera angle that made it look like there was. He had a little look to the inside there, did Guillemet, but he didn't make any contact. McSparron just did that on his own, and I've got to say, fair enough, because that is a very, very easy place to either go for a spin or go straight on and find that tyre wall.
Of course, you got one of the 992.2s also going off through there as Wallace now into second place, trying to close in on Bissett for the lead, but he still has plenty of company back there with Guillemette. Actually, that's for third. I apologize. So Wallace and Guillemette battling for third as Zachary Beisch falling down the order. Not sure if he's having a problem there or if Roman and Rios, who are his LMP2 competitors, they just have gotten a better way around here as Beisch really falling down the order.
Yeah, he must have had a problem. He must have had a problem because he's dropped down the order very abruptly indeed. Let's see some other stuff from lap 1 first, though. Oh, Zach Merrill going for a spin to the inside of NASCAR bend. So Mick Sparrow went to the outside and Merrill spun to the inside. I'll tell you that Cooper has made up 3 places off the start, by the way, despite not qualifying here. And overall places being made as well, as Dave Bell has trouble on the opening lap, getting over that curb, just looking for the exit off of turn 6. And goes for a spin in front of the GT4s as well, although was off the road safely. Here is Zachary Beisch, dropping to last in 992.2 because of this. Goes wide through the final turn and ends up in the endless grass on the outside and the endless wait to find a space to get rejoining as well. Has to turn out of that pretty abruptly and then wait for a gap in the traffic, which comes a long way down.
Several years ago, there's actually a AMA Superbike that went way off, coming off of Hog Pen, and ended up about a quarter mile, less than a quarter mile off of the track. So it's not uncommon to see cars and bikes make their way through there. As you see the battle up top for GT4, battle for position there, and at the bottom you've got Andrew Cooper doing his best to hold off Batista as third in GT3. That's looking pretty good as well.
There's a pass being made on Chance Sheffield by Damian Castro, who moves into the top 3. Close at the top of the screen as well. Cooper just about with the space to hold on to Nicholas Batista. I mentioned that overtaking chance coming in towards turn 14 at the end of the back straight there, mentioning that it is the best overtaking chance on this lap, and while it may well be, do feel that it's not an easy one either. Not easy to decide which way you want to go as well, whether you want to defend the inside or the outside, because what actually is the inside or the outside? You've got a slight bend to the left first of all, then a sharper right, followed by another 2 lefts if you make it side by side down the hill. So quite hard to know which side to defend and which side to attack on the way down the back straight there.
Well, Ewan, also speaking of, we talked about how Tyler Manning was a second faster in qualifying. We're 3 laps in. He's already 4.5 seconds ahead of this battle for position. So he's making his way out of the left hook into the snake, and the guys are just going into left hook. This is just too good. Tyler Manning has got everybody covered this season.
He has. He absolutely has. I wonder what he can get overall. Might be the most interesting thing to note about his race going forward, but let's see. Wallace got through on Guillemette on the opening lap, and it was rather an amicable change. Looks like Guillemette's going to try and retake that second place now in the class, and third overall. They come over the top of the hill here. Here they go, exactly what I was talking about, through turn 14. Inside turns to the outside, turns to the inside again for Guillemette, although he's on the outside for the final turn, which might be the hammer blow. Although no, Wallace backs out of it there on the outside line, and Charlie Guillemette slips through. Wallace perhaps with championship on his mind, with Chris Glandon not here tonight.
Of course, Guillemette with the win last time out at Barber. He's on round number 2, and he's really put the 992.2 class on notice as Bissett doing the best that he can as he's been put into the 992.2 class and working his way around. And this is just such a great race, and Wallace really coming onto his own as well this season. So we'll see what he can do, see if he can catch up. But Guillemette showing up late, but impressing in 992.2.
Absolutely. I do wonder how points are going to be configured with people who are not in this category normally scoring this time round. I presume they'll just score.
That. Yes, it was actually pulling it up when we were talking about it. According to Richard Davenport, points will be split out as if you're still driving your normal class. So right now, Bissett will still get, if he is able to stay up top, he will get winning most points for winning. Also, Saturday's endurance, there will not be an LMP2 in there as well. So what you see here for classes for the enduro on Saturday, you'll see that as well in Saturday's race.
Should just note one more thing as well, that I believe there are 2 drop rounds in this championship as well. So don't fear too much for those who are not here today, like Smotherman, for example, and Chris Glandon as well. Smotherman a lone championship leader, Chris Glandon sharing the lead with Martin Wallace, at least in points standing terms anyway. Don't fear too much for them. This is both their first rounds missed so far, and they'll be able to take it as a drop, although just put the pressure on the ones that they are here for. Here comes Wallace again as these two continue to exchange places. Mike Wallace and Tyler Guillemette. It's for second in 992.2, but it's for third overall down in towards turn 1. Wallace is able to get Guillemette just to go a little bit wide through turn 1, but it's such a long hairpin. As I mentioned before, you just don't want to be on the outside through there at all.
No, you want to make sure that you're staying within that racing line, and Wallace closing in on Guillemette. Of course, the lap times kind of show that Guillemette a little bit faster than Wallace, but here's the thing, you can see the faster lap times through here, but a lot of it has to do with, okay, what sector are you faster in, especially here. Not necessarily, we don't really worry about that too much. It's here that I think it's more important than, okay, yeah, you've got a slower lap time, but you're catching up to this driver in this sector. So we'll see how that happens. I think Guillemette's just really quick coming off of Oak Tree.
It was really close through the first sector there, by the way. They were leaning on each other through turn 4 and 5. Guillemette able to hold on to position, though, and hold on to second in class. That's Richard Davenport next in line, catching up, by the way, behind these two. And then it's Elias Roman, who, well, he's 4th in the class. He's going to be scoring second place points. He's going to try and get a head around that for the remainder. Look at how fast they are in a straight line as well. I mean, when these two classes are racing together in other series, especially in longer endurance races, I actually think these 992s these days are actually becoming too fast. They're so similar to the GT3s. For example, over the course of the Nürburgring 24 Hours, which is coming up in 2 or 3 weekends' time, these 992 Cup cars are going to be in the top classes anyway. Maybe the winner's going to be maybe 3 laps down over a 24-hour race. I know it's a long circuit, but goodness me, these cars are so fast now compared to the GT3s around them.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how far we've come in technology, because heck, 10, 15 years ago, that gap would have been a lot longer. And like you said, it's a long track, so 2-3 laps, that's pretty darn good, as we got 2 great battles here in 992.2, and the battle for second place still heats up in GT4 between Cooper and Batista. So these two groups have been going at each other for quite some time. And of course, it's going to be a little bit further back for somebody in 9922, and that's Elias Roman, who we normally see at the front of the LMP2 class. They have a little bit of struggle here, it looks like, with the 992.2, but it's great to see, because normally here, I've done a lot of spec races here, whether it be Porsche or MX-5s or some sort of spec racer. The racing for these spec classes, sometimes not the greatest, but these guys are really showing that you don't necessarily need to be a spec car to have a bad race, which, by the way, take a look at how close Guillemette now is getting on the back end of Bissett.
Yeah, it's close at the front of the field, close all the way through. In fact, McSparren is beginning his recovery now, with Dave Bell just in front in GT3 at the top of your screen, and that battle for second in GT4 actually become first now, actually, because Tyler Manning has come into the pit lane, and he's been there for a very long time. I think he's rejoined now, but yeah, he has. But yeah, he has had a very long pit stop, and a very early pit stop as well, which is interesting. Here comes McSparren. He's not going to be able to go through there, but is he going to be able to force Dave Bell into a mistake? No, that was expertly done. And he gets to the apex nicely in the Acura, does Dave Bell. So McSparren's got a big job ahead of him, and in these races, to be honest, they're not really long enough to be able to afford you making a mistake as early on as McSparren did, but he did give himself the whole race to recover from it.
Yeah, for these guys, 45 minutes is a long time. Of course, we're just past that 10-minute mark, and you see the battle for 6 heat up there as McSparron actually comes back into the pits after that first lap incident. So, wonder if there's something wrong with that Mustang.
We'll find out here. Still think it's too early, really, to be having pit stops, but let's see. Here's the battle for the lead in GT4 again. Just over half an hour to go, 14th, 15th overall. And this is the class really that is separated from the others in terms of speed, really. It's very hard to stay on turns. I mean, these guys are 10 seconds off the class lead, the overall lead in terms of best lap time. And that's only being multiplied throughout the day. Here comes Batista again. It's very impressive the way that Cooper's been able to come through the field in the initial parts of this race, but has since been under pressure, and so far anyway has shown himself to be fine at fending off these attacks of Nicholas Batista. But this is a long way to go, more than half an hour. We'll see just how long it can continue on for. Justin Bessett has made a mistake somewhere, and Charlie Guillemet is very close to him. Coming in towards turn 14 there, or it might have been somewhere else actually. He just had a little bit of a go, had a little bit of a look, and Wallace is within the second there as well. All very close, and here he goes in towards turn 3. It was turn 1 where he made the initial attack. Now turn 3 where he strikes. Bessett goes wide into the grass, and in the space of a few laps, Guillemet has overturned quite a big lead there for Justin Bessett, and he's now overtaken him for the lead of this race.
Guillemet has really turned this 992.2 class on its head. As we said, the race winner at Barber, and now he's leading in 992.2. Gotta hand it to him because, you know, he ran a half second faster than Bessett. Of course, Bessett, he's still trying to race without that much aerodynamics because you got to stop and figure, yeah, while the 992.2 has the aerodynamics, it doesn't have the aero bits like the Dallara P217 has. So to see Bessett up here running in second place alone is good news. However, he's going to have a whole bunch of Martin Bob Wallace on his rear bumper here in just a little bit. However, they're also catching up to the GT4 leader. Actually, the former GT4 leader, Zach Merrill.
Yeah, indeed. There's going to be lap traffic properly now. Although when they get to these three, it will be the most thick. Charles St. Pierre has just come into the pit lane for a black flag, as you may have seen. So is now officially one lap down in this race. They're the well, indeed, he's a lap down, so as do his class companions, not only overall. But here are Cooper and Batista against. Good run for Batista out the, well, sort of S's. The proper S's are to come through turn 7 there, but little way of finding a way through for the moment. And I'm going to be interested to see where they come out in relation to Tyler Manning. What was his pit stop so early for? And why was it 25 seconds long as well? Is going to be the interest. Is that par for the course here, or is that a little bit long, allowing one of these two maybe to go on and take a race win?
Well, we'll see exactly how that works out as we work our way through the race. If he decides to long pit, that might be what the length is. McSparron 10.7 seconds as Dave Bell had a black flag. He's into the pits. Charles St. Pierre also had a black flag. So a couple of naughty flags for those two drivers. Is now, here's what's interesting, seeing Bessett still keeping pace with Guillemet. The lap times were about the same last time by between the two of them, just about a half second separated the leader from second place. But here you've got, man, Bessett really having Wallace close in on him, and not too far away is Roman to really close in and make something happen. You still have the battle for first in GT4. That's not going away anytime soon. I think that Batista's just sitting and waiting for that McLaren to make a mistake, but that McLaren is just oh so good here.
Yeah, indeed. It's again something so notable about GT4 and GT3 racing that we get to enjoy in this series as well. The different manufacturers and their different strengths and weaknesses. That's the class where it's not applicable here today anyway. The only class is the 992.2s. Tyler Guillemet is racing away at the front of the field now. He's already won a race at Barber, and that was his only race to date in this series. Well, he's back again, and he is winning again at the moment. And it's been the nature of the wins for me. Not that he's won this race yet, but at Barber, he didn't much look like he was going to win this race in qualifying, and he went on to do so. And so I've got to say, in the opening laps here, he didn't much look like he was going to either. But as the race wears longer, it seems Charles Guillemet gets faster, and at the moment, the others can't quite live with him.
And it seems like that he just gets a handle on this 992.2, and once he gets a handle, it's game over for the rest of the field. So it's going to be interesting to see how, you know, Glandon, Wallace, Rania really come back later on in the season to try and defend, as you see Batista holding off Cooper. Once again, it's McLaren over BMW making their way around through down Hawk Pen roller coaster now into Hawk Pen, and I think that Batista's finally found that extra gear to close in on the U.S. Army McLaren. Does he decide to come into the pits? No, he doesn't. He goes drivers left down the front straightaway once again. I think we're going to start to see drivers come into pit this time by, so that way they can answer the call and make sure that they're good to go from the race. And Batista is actually one of those drivers. He's going to try for the undercut.
Yeah, not a bad idea, given the place he was in. Rather stuck, I felt. So, not a bad idea. Here is Castro on the back of Richard Davenport, who was trailing the 992.2 class leading battle earlier, don't forget. Castro is now looking to take that second place away from him in GT3. Brakes late, round the outside, and door to door. Look at that, great racing between the two of them. He's on a very tight line now though, Castro, and that was great defending. Oh no, he's lost it though. Davenport's lost it. Castro goes one side. Oh, the other two go snipping down the other. Chance Sheffield in the same class there gets through, and so does one of those 992 cars that was also involved there. I think that's Elias Roman who was in there, and Davenport, after fending off so well, it was a good fight round the outside from Castro. It was a good fight back from Davenport into turn 2 and towards turn 3 where he just lost it. And a real shame to see the battle end that way, because it was great fighting between them initially.
I'm just amazed that everybody was able to avoid Davenport. That could have gone bad in a hurry. So, applause to Davenport for saving it and not taking out those three drivers. Applause to those three for not taking out Davenport in themselves. Let's take a look at this replay as, Davenport just doing what he can, pinches off Castro, and Castro decides he's going to tuck in line, and Davenport just one of those things where the back end just snaps loose going into NASCAR. And look at that gap right there, Ewan, was just big enough for Davenport to slide through. Salata gets a black flag.
Meanwhile, he's side by side with Zachary Page and letting him through there in towards turn 14. I guess that's the sensible idea when you've just got a black flag. Merrill and Cooper are both in, so in GT4 the field is now going to be reset. Looks like Manning's pit stop was indeed in line with what you'd expect, and Batista's now behind him as Bessett goes side by side now for second place with Martin Wallace, and he stays in front. So these two are just costing each other time to Guillemet. They're not working together in the way that you'd hope.
No, but I'll say this, for somebody who has zero experience in the P Cup and didn't even own it before race day, and having to adapt to a car which he's not fond of, to say the least, and get a paint scheme, Justin Bissett is really showing himself that you could throw him in anything and he could still be competitive.
Oh, Dave Bell off the road there. That is, oh dear, that is all over the place from Dave Bell, and he's struggling with those tyres as well, or is it damage he's struggling with? He's struggling with something after getting underway there. That car doesn't look quite right. Maybe this will be an answer. Whoa, dear. Bit too deep, and good avoidance from the Mustang in behind. Must just be dirt on the tyres, warm tyres there for Dave Bell, because that was just a spin through South Bend.
Oh, that was another close one, and that's just the luck of the draw here at VIR. So, you get lucky sometimes before you're good, but either way, Bassett doing all he can to hold off Wallace once again, coming down through roller coaster into Hog Pen. We'll see if either of these two decide to answer the call for the pits, which might be any minute now. I think Wallace looked like he was going to, but decided better of it. He's going to stay within the draft. By the way, they're 1.4 seconds behind your leader, Gillimet, in 992.2. Wallace going to pop to the outside. Not something I would try here, going around Horseshoe, but hey, he might think that he might have a better shot on going high, wide, and handsome. He almost had that nose out front, but you saw Bassett, that was a little wiggly there, and that is why you don't go to the outside, because you drop a tire, and that could be game over for your race aspirations.
That was loose, very loose from Wallace there, but you can't doubt they're pushing hard. That's the advantage of having short races, by the way. Only 45 minutes. Not entirely concerned about their tyre wear. As you can see, Tyler Manning in again. So, not sure what the first pit stop was all about, but Tyler Manning is having to come in again now. And that is going to cost him a chance at even getting close in this race. The three that are left behind, though, are fighting and doing his... Oh, no, and Zach Merrill goes off. He was in the lead there so briefly. He was on the right line, but he broke too late on the inside. Batista given the lead, and Andrew Cooper, who was shuffled to third after leading earlier, is now back to second, and in behind the new race leader, Nicholas Batista.
It's not our fault. It's not the commentator's curse. We're just going to have to blame Ramiro on this one, because anytime we point a camera at somebody, that's when they go off and have a mistake. But either way, this battle team Batista and Cooper is doing very, very good. I have a feeling that Merrill, though, he might be able to catch up. That Mustang very well handling here, and he just overshot the corner. Nothing you could say about that. Came in a little too hot, able to get back on there, but still 1.6 seconds off the lead.
Side by side again. I'm sure he's going to be here again, Ms. Merrill, because this is not going to end now in GT4. Andrew Cooper is going to look to try and get past Nicholas Batista as soon as possible as Demian Castro comes into the pit lane, as does Richard Davenport, both in GT3. Can Cooper get himself through here? He'd expect the McLaren to be strong on the straight here towards turn 14. It's about the braking performance, and that was great on the brakes from Andrew Cooper. He returns to the race lead again, squeezing through a very narrow gap on the run up the hill there. He's back in front of Nicholas Batista. He's back into the lead of GT4.
And what I say? You get the, and look who's also into the mix. It's Zach Merrill. So the more that Cooper and Batista decide to go toe-to-toe with one another, it's going to bring Merrill in even closer. And he's not somebody that I would want up front. But oh no, Cooper is flashing. So Cooper having some connection issues in that McLaren, but he's able to keep the lead for the time being. Andrew Cooper leading by a half a second. It's just a scant difference between 1, 2, and 3. Throw a blanket over them, and you'll cover all three of them nice and tight as they work their way through NASCAR Bend. I've got to say, Ewan, this is going to go down to the wire. 20 minutes of great GT4 racing. I can't wait.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like that is going to be the pick of the bunch, although 992 is not exactly too far apart yet either. Guillemette only 1.3 in front of his rivals. There is, I think that's Davenport just in the background there, Richard Davenport. And this is going to be a key feature as well through the remainder of this race. What about traffic? Mentioned that the 992 and GT3s aren't going to be seeing traffic too much, but they will lap the GT4s at least once. Here comes Bassett into the pit lane, so kicking off that pit stop cycle as well with 20 minutes to go.
No surprise that it took till just now for everybody to come into the pits for GT3, as you see Justin Bassett back into the pits, so we'll see what he can do. I did see McLaren as well, not sure who that was, but actually that was Sheffield. So yeah, he's in the pits, Bassett's in the pits. He'll fall back to 6th, as that's the lowest that he'll go right now. He'll have a gap of time between Louis Rios. We'll see how far that he can get out there, and it looks like that he is in and out as well. Sheffield, he's out in the number 66. So a couple of quick pit stops. Sheffield 14.4 comes out in 3rd.
Yeah, indeed. Sheffield, well, only just in front. And not in front very long of Castro. in third, so change for the podium places, although that, to be fair, is just a return to the previous running order for these two. It was Castro in front of Sheffield. Casey Sobel is in front of them both at the moment, but hasn't stopped yet, as far as I'm aware. Nolan Uke has not stopped yet either, but he is expected to come in very, very shortly. He's led this race from the beginning, and he will look to take it all the way to the checkered flag now. These are the closest chasers, but I think the most likely ones to take him off Nolan Uke now are the 992s, as Sheffield goes wide. That will give Castro a little bit of breathing space, but no! Nolan Uke has got a black flag. I think it's for speeding in the pit lane. It has to be. And surely that will now give over the race lead, not only in his class, but overall as well.
Oh, what a horrible, horrible way to end your race reign by coming in and speeding. It's got to be close, because you're not really picking up too much speed from the hog pen into the pits if that's what you're going to do. But either way, a rough way to end your race. Here's Justin Bissett trying to work his way around some GT3 traffic, which is coming into the pits as well. And man, what a rough way to end that lead right now.
Wow, that is unfortunate. I mean, it's not like it's one of the hardest pit lanes to get onto either, to be honest. It is one of those where you can really maximise the braking on the way in, to be fair. And so if you are trying to get as close to that line as possible, as close to that speed as possible, then maybe it is a place where you can manage it, but it's not particularly technical. And Castro and Sheffield are going to assume first and second very easily indeed, as Casey Sobel comes into the pit lane. In fact, will catch right up to Nolan Uke, despite being a long way behind previously. This could be quite a fight for the race win, but it will only be in class between Castro and Sheffield. But what a gift it would be, especially to Sheffield, who's already won on plenty of occasions this season.
This battle for the lead's going to heat up quite quickly, too, once they get up to that GT4 traffic, because Guillemette 10 seconds ahead of Elias Roman. And, yeah, neither of those guys, I think, I know Roman hasn't pitted, so, yeah, the top 7 overall, well, Sobel just came to the pits, the top 6 overall, I think, are still waiting to come into the pits. And just as I say that, Guillemette's in the pits, and Dave Bell into the pits as well.
In towards the top of the hill, turn 14. So how are they all going to shake out in 992 while they stop? I mean, Roman hasn't stopped yet, but I think all the others have now. So they'll be in front of the GT3s. It will be a 992.2 class win overall, I think, as well. Today, Guillemette will indeed be ahead of Bessett by some margin as well, and ahead of Wallace. Zachary Bache drops through the field as he makes his pit stop. So that top 3 in 992 all in front of the GT3s, but Guillemette has really gained some time in the pit stop phase, and seem to remember that from his victory before as well. Not only did he get faster through the race, his pit strategy seemed to be the best as well, as Sheffield is overtaking Castro briefly. He's on the outside now through 3. This is going to be tricky as they give each other the room. It's a long way round there, and Chance Sheffield can't get through. And Wallace, meantime, goes for a spin just in front of them.
I think Bissett also may have been involved in that one, but Wallace falling back as they both work their way out of left hook. We'll see the replay here in just a little while, but this battle is going to be absolutely fantastic here as Sheffield trying to do what he can to get around Castro. You see Bissett doing what he can to close in on Wallace. It's about 7 seconds separating those two. A little bit of a wiggle there out of Castro. And we go back to the GT4 lead as once again it's Cooper and Batista. But you see that there's that Casey Sobel, the All-Canada Porsche sitting back there. A little bit of a wiggle there from Batista. And now the battle is afoot in GT3 where Sheffield has caught the draft of Castro. Can he make it happen off of Madison Avenue? I don't know if he's close enough to try and even pop out. He's going to get a look, but does he get the late break? No, he decides better of it going through the roller coaster. Not a place you really want to pass if you're a car length or more behind. You really got to be on the back bumper of the car you're trying to pass.
Oh, off just at the top of your screen there while the battle for first in GT4 was going on. I think it was a GT3. It wasn't actually too wide in the end there from one of the Porsches. Might be Casey Sobel who went wide there. Meantime, at the very top of the GT3 class, Castro and Sheffield again, side by side. It's time in towards turn one, and Castro, despite being on the outside, brakes later, chops in front of Sheffield and keeps the lead again. He's under a lot of pressure here, Demi Castro, but he's soaking it up awfully well at the moment.
Nah, he's doing quite well. It's like he's not even looking at the mirrors. He might as well just rip him off at this point and just keep Sheffield behind him. The Sheffield's trying to do everything he can, and look at, because he went a little wide, he lost a little ground there to Castro. So Castro able to work his way up there. Batista back into the pit, so effectively his race is over when it comes to trying to battle for the GT4 lead. So the race of three now just became a race of two, with Cooper and Merrill 1 and 2. But now Sheffield has to claw his way back up to get even closer to Castro. He might be able to do it down Madison Avenue, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, indeed. Castro is not going to be easy to overtake at all. Here for Chance Sheffield, as Ellis Roman finally pits and cleanses the field here. He was sticking it out there for a couple of laps and making the 992 order look a bit strange, but Tyler Guillemette now is going to assume the lead, and he's going to assume it by quite some margin as well for the second time this season. A similar race for him coming up, and Roman's out pretty quickly. Wallace is going to be ahead of Roman, but Bessett is not that far away. He is quite far away, I should say, and he's not going to get through here. Bessett overtakes Bell, but that's a lap, putting a lap on him there. Justin Bessett, after leading earlier on tonight, is disappointingly, I think for him, off the podium now, and Elias Roman now ahead.
So Bessett, how far back is he? He might be able to dance with his old adversary, Roman. Of course, that would be the battle for the LMP2 quote-unquote points win, as Smotherman out this week, so he'll take one of his two drop rounds. But either way, Castro now has to worry about Sheffield once again in two ways. One, with the lap traffic. Two, he's now within a half second, and now within 0.4 of a second. He didn't go wide this time around left hook, Sheffield didn't. But either way, this battle for GT3 not going to shake its way loose anytime soon.
No, indeed. Through Oak Tree again. Oh, that's a bit wide from Sheffield that time. That's not the exit he's looking for. He needs to be later on the apex than that. A better run onto the straight than that. If he wants to get through here, and time is running out. It's not exactly on his side, to be honest, with more than 10 minutes remaining. Only just up over the top of the hill through turn 14. And that is Dave Bell just off in front of them again there. He will get back on, but in behind these two, thankfully. So Castro continues to lead. As I say, he's got more than 10 minutes left here, and that isn't very long, really, for Chance Sheffield to get himself through. In reality, that should be, I think, 6 laps in this race.
6 laps is absolutely fantastic, and it's got to be enough for Bell to at least try and get some points here on the board, but it's to be more than enough for Sheffield to try any sort of attack that he wants off of Castro. Several passing opportunities, including here if you're daring going into NASCAR Bend, and not going to be able to make it happen this time. You got another one here in the left hook, but you really got to be brave, and he's going to be brave because Castro takes 2 wheels off. Sheffield spins behind him, so Sheffield had a great chance to close in on Castro, and he spins and makes contact with the guardrail.
Well, you don't see that too often. We certainly haven't too much for Chance Sheffield this season. But amazingly, he doesn't lose any places. Well, I suppose he loses the chance to go first, but he doesn't lose any further than that. Let's see it again. In towards left hook. Castro was a little bit wide there. As he comes back on, Sheffield sees his opportunity. And I mean, can we just chalk that down to overexcitement at getting through to the lead and the win? I think maybe. There wasn't any contact, there wasn't any other reason, I don't think, why he should have gone into a spin, but he did. And as I say, he hasn't cost himself any places officially, but he has cost himself the chance at a win.
Yeah, and it's a shame, too, because we knew how many opportunities Sheffield had against Castro, and I just think he just got spooked with Castro coming back onto the circuit the way he was, and unfortunately, you know, that just happens in racing. So, but good racing between the two of them. Now we see the LMP2 leaders, Roman and Bissett, sitting back there for that bottom step of the podium in 992.2. That'll be an interesting story if either of these two can round themselves out on the podium with a last-minute change from LMP2 to the 992s. Ooh, Bissett looked to the inside going through turn and not going to make it happen here as a little bit of a wiggle by Roman. That's going to give Bissett a chance to come through. Here comes Bissett. He's now into third. So whatever's going on in 3 and 4, a lot of drivers just having a little bit of difficulty managing those turns.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just the fact they are difficult through the first sector, but yeah, something weird is happening there. See a replay again. This is, don't forget, Bissett in front of Roman the way they were before in the pit stop phase, so Bissett may see this as just the just way round, I suppose, but see it again here, coming off of 2 and in towards NASCAR Bend. Roman just a little bit wide of the apex, gets a little bit loose, does well to save it, I think, really. And unlike Chad Sheffield, who went properly around and into a spin, Roman is still there, so he can very much come back and challenge again.
Yeah, Roman went a little too fast through NASCAR Bend, but he is closing in once again. You don't see Roman make too many mistakes, so it was kind of weird to see him make that through NASCAR Bend, as Bissett trying to stay on that bottom step of the podium with just about 7 minutes left to go in this race. And what a race it has been, especially for Tyler Guillemette, as he's trying to go 2 for 2 on the season here in Porsche 992.2. And once again, Roman closing in on his LMP2 adversary down into turn number 1. Not going to make anything happen here unless he decides to have a little bit of a soft brake pedal through 1.
Yeah, well, let's hope not. It's a big stop through there, of course. So you can see the changes in overall place, I believe that is, on the left-hand side, by the way. Castro really tearing his way through this field now. At this stage, this late stage, he's only in the top 5 overall, though. Just shows you what a stranglehold the 992s have got over this race now, given the way that it's unfolded. These guys are about 12 seconds behind Tyler Guillemette, who is not on his way to a first-class win, but might be on his way to a first overall victory. He is 3 laps, maybe even 4 laps, actually, away from doing that as these two come into Oak Tree. A little bit wide from Bissett. You don't want to go any wider there. You'll end up on the curb and in the grass, but he tries to get the best exit he can to hold on to this 3rd place, as Cooper, meantime, loses the GT4 lead to Zach Merrill. It's been non-stop drama in that category.
Yeah, it's been drama after drama, more drama than you see in a soap opera in the middle of the day. Is now Roman closing within 0.3 of a second over Bissett and not able to make it happen through roller coasters. They set themselves up for hog pen once again, and just you gotta applaud these two for being up there. Zachary Bache even in 5th place, and new leaders Chad Sheffield somehow takes the lead in GT3. What has happened here with Damian Castro?
Yeah, something's going on here. Castro is slowing down dramatically. You wonder whether he's under-fueled by a lap or something, because he's very, very slow suddenly compared to his GT3 rivals, and to the tune of 2 or 3 seconds or so, possibly more. And this is Castro slowing on the straight. Very nearly chopped in front of Dave Bell there. I think Castro believes he's under-fueled here, and you know, to be fair, I am unsure as to how many laps this race is going to be. I mean, there's been so many different leaders, and when you start a race and you're not even sure which category of car is going to win, it's quite hard to work out how many laps of fuel you need. However, Castro looks like he's miscalculated here badly, and it doesn't look like he's coming back at Sheffield, to me particularly. He's hanging around a second behind, and I think he's barely clinging on in terms of fuel, but the gap he had compared to what he has now, you almost feel like it would have been worth him coming in. And these two, by the way, are not too far away. They're less than 4 seconds off the race lead now as well.
Well, remember, you had that black flag going into the pit, so you had to serve that. The fact that he's sitting there battling for a podium is impressive in and of itself. He's over the back of Davenport, who also had his fair share of problems. So it's been a race of attrition and trying to climb up through it here in this GT3 class, because everybody in the top 4 has had issues, and they're within 3 seconds of each other.
Unbelievable. That would have been, well, an absurd prediction only a few laps ago. Now it has come to reality. Although, having said that, Nolan Nuke has gone, so it will just be the 3. But nevertheless, very close. Bessett and Roman again over at the start-finish line. They're 11 seconds off the lead. I think this will indeed be 2 laps to go, but it's going to be pretty close as to whether we get a third. Bessett round the outside of Roman. He's looking for that podium again, and there was a shoulder barge between the two. Roman on the inside holding firm, but he's on the outside for the next 3 turns if it stays that way, and that is the way it stays. Bessett moves through on the inside line, and he's back into third again. So this is a constant toing and froing between these two drivers who, as we've mentioned, are normally fighting at the top of the LMP2 class, and they are fighting for maximum points in that category. It's for third, though, in the 992s.
A little bit of an off-road there by Roman. Man, I tell you what, he knows he's not in an LMP2 because he is getting more aggressive than what we normally see. A little bit of a wiggle there going through the S's. Oh. And look at that, Bessett goes off. He shortcuts the course. That's going to give Roman a chance to close in. And indeed, Bessett gives the position up. But I tell you what, I don't think this battle's over. I think Bessett's got a couple of more attacks in him as they come down through Madison Avenue. But Roman's going to do all that he can to make sure that doesn't happen as they go draft off of one another. Don't hold your breath, because this is going to be a fantastic battle here.
What a bit of car control that was, by the way, from Bessett, bounding across the grass through the middle of the turn there through South Bend. Amazed that he didn't get more of a slowdown for that. He did have to give up some time, but it didn't cost him too much, really. Here it is again. Just gets it wrong over that hop there. You mentioned it right at the very beginning, the way they hop through the chicane. Just gets it slightly wrong. He does very well to save it, I've got to say, from that situation. And he gets back on the straight and narrow. Oh, Chance Sheffield into the back of Dave Bell. That's the leader in GT3. And suddenly, just as he lost the lead, Damien Castro doesn't look so much like he's out of fuel anymore. And Chance Sheffield's going wide, a little bit erratic now as he's trying to put a lap on Dave Bell, and he's getting up towards the back of one of the 992 cars. There's going to be a GT4 in their way as well here very soon as they potentially come onto the last lap. We'll see if the checkered flag's waving next time they get to the line, but Castro goes for it and he goes off. He went for broke there in towards turn 1 and he went off down in towards turn 1. Chance Sheffield's going to win again in GT3. Castro has won this race many times over and lost it again many times over tonight, and in the end he's not even going to be second. Richard Davenport gets past as well, coming on to the final laps and the final moments of this race.
I still wouldn't hold on to Sheffield leading this race because he's still got a couple of lap cars that he's got to get around, and he's got to get around them cleaning, and that's going to be easier said than done, especially if he catches them at the wrong point in the racetrack. Take a look at this replay, and Damien Castro tried to outbrake and just could not keep the car onto the circuit, and Castro now trying to fight his way for third as Davenport getting held up by GT4 traffic. Here comes Castro, high, wide, and handsome going into Oak Tree, and indeed he's going to get second with flavor.
He is potentially going to keep it this time as well. Now then, will this be the last lap? It will, as Tyler Guillemet comes round the final corner. He's going to come through to win VIR in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League. What a race it was as well. 3.7 seconds his gap at the line. I think he was slowing down there slightly to make sure that was the final lap, and maybe his fuel strategy required that. Further behind, Chance Sheffield is going to be breathing a big sigh of relief, because with another lap, you wouldn't be sure what this race was going to do, but he is going to hold on, in this case, to a GT3 victory. And I think just behind Guillemet, Zach Merrill made his way over the line very quickly afterwards for a race win there. Yeah, he did. He was right in behind Guillemet, actually. So he'd just been put another lap down there. and he holds on by a second as well over Andrew Cooper. The biggest winning margin, 3.7 seconds, and that is the sign of a brilliant race at VIR tonight.
What did I say? Never count out Zach Merrill today, especially with Tyler Manning having his issues. By the way, he's still on the podium for GT4, but what a race there. And I guess I can say, I'm sorry I doubted Sheffield, but it seemed like nobody wanted to win in GT3, period.
Yeah, they were winning overall at one stage, don't forget. And here are their race results. 2.3 seconds, eventually Chance Sheffield's gap to him and Castro winning that second place back from Richard Davenport right at the end there. Nolan Nuke, the pole sitter, will be ruining that speeding penalty. He would have won by a mile if he'd not sped. Casey Sobel wins fifth place, I guess, with Jason McSparrow next. And then Dave Bell just lapped at the very end there, as we saw, going a lap down. Charlie Guillemette wins in 992.2, and these are the overall winners as well. Martin Wallace in second. Then Elias Roman, who gains points on Justin Bassett in the LMP2 category point standings. Zachary Pace, Louis Rios, and John Salada, who didn't make it very much of that race, complete the 992 field. Zach Merrill wins in GT4 in front of Andrew Cooper. Nicholas Batista really dropped down there towards the end, so Tyler Manning does get a podium. Charles St. Pierre ended up 2 laps down in that race in the end. We'll just wait for a moment for the drivers to get themselves into the interview room. I can imagine they're just cooling down for a moment, Jeremy, because we certainly are. That was a breathless race, really, here at VIR. Despite the fact we didn't have even have one of our main categories that we normally have in this series either.
You know, sometimes you don't need a prototype to have a great race. This was absolutely fantastic. And once again, you know, with the last minute change for these LMP2 drivers to go into 992.2, I think that they held their own. Look, I'm not saying that they should do something like this again, but I'm not going to complain because that was easily some of the best racing that we have seen so far this season, and we've seen some great racing up and down the championship.
Yeah, we certainly have, and we should just before we go, hopefully get to some people in the waiting room, but get to some of the later rounds of this season, because we do still have we're here every couple of weeks, of course, with this series, and we've got 2 sprint rounds to go. As you mentioned, there's a VIR endurance round to come later this weekend, but Canadian Tire Motorsport Park is where we'll be in 2 weeks' time, and Road America for our finale. 2 very different racetracks, I think it's fair to say, but should be entertaining ones as well. I think anywhere could be entertaining in this series based on what we've just seen.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, granted, both of them have elevation changes, and both of them are legends in their own right. But seeing Mosport in 2 weeks is going to be absolutely fantastic. Yes, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I still catch myself saying Mosport, but that's because of the legend of that facility.
I didn't know we weren't allowed to call it Mosport, to be honest. I will be doing so in 2 weeks' time. So there we go. But anyway, let's get some interviews, shall we, and chat to some drivers who are actually on the racetrack tonight. Charlie Guillemette, first of all, who won in the 992s and indeed overall this time round. Tyler, welcome in. Good to have you with us. A topsy-turvy race in many ways, but the defining moment, it seemed to be, to me, was the pit stop phase. You seemed to go in with not very much of a lead and come out with a much bigger one. Just talk us through that pit stop phase and what you maybe thought were the key moments of that race.
Yeah, hey, thanks, guys. It was a little crazy at the beginning there with Jason spinning in front of me and then getting a couple slowdowns and having to catch back up to Bob and Justin there. And then, yeah, like you said, went in the pits after those guys and took as little fuel as I could. And I guess it paid off in the end because it gave me an extra like 4 or 5 seconds on my lead, and kind of held on to it till the end and played the clock a little bit to get the white flag early.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well. Was that tactics that you came up with from a long way into the race? Did you sort of see what was developing with about 5-10 minutes to go and decide to slow down? I mean, you don't often see it. You don't often see a winning margin big enough for someone to be allowed to do that. But at what point did you decide? And was it necessary as well? Did you have another lap's worth of fuel, or were you going to run out?
Yeah, I had about another lap and a half of fuel, but coming to the white flag, I had seen that there was enough time between me and Martin to slow down and just take the white flag then, and get it over with earlier, play with it a little bit, or I could have pushed it probably got one more lap out of it.
Glad to hear it in that case. But congratulations on taking a victory in the end by 3 seconds over the rest of the field. Your second of the season, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, thanks very much. That is Tyler Guillemette, who joins us here, having won in 992 here tonight. Let's go to GT3 next and chat to Chance Sheffield, who has won there. Chance, welcome in. Good to have you with us as well. What a topsy-turvy GT3 race that was. First of all, not a nuke leading by such a long way, and then a penalty effectively opening it up to the rest of you to go on a win. Then as you were attacking Damien Castro, you went for a spin, and eventually you came through to take the victory as Castro slowed down towards the end of that race. Just talk us through the roller coaster that you were feeling in the car through that 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was car. I wasn't feeling good on this track. I want to give props to Damien. He was just got off. I went to miss him. I spun and he did the sportsman thing and slowed down so I could catch up. So hats off to him. And and hats off to Nolan too and Richard. They were all fast tonight. It was amazing, fun racing.
Well, it was certainly fun to watch as well. What were you expecting in terms of this race because of the lack of LMP2s? How were you expecting it to change the race, considering that you now had a chance, although it didn't come through for the GT3s, you had a chance at an overall win tonight instead of just a class win like normal?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a little bit different, and I knew the P-Cups were going to be fast here with that long straightaway. They can pull away from us. We can get them in the corners. Like I've said week after week, yeah, them guys are fast. And then you put some of them pro guys in there, and they're just as fast. It's amazing. Fun racing.
Well, congratulations on taking the GT3 win tonight, Chance, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of tonight as well. That is Chance Sheffield, who joins us here tonight at the Virginia International Raceway, having won in GT3. In GT4, Zach Merrill has taken the victory, and we can chat to him now as well. Zach, welcome in. Good to have you with us too. In GT4, there was, all four of you anyway. Yourself, Andrew Cooper, Tyler Manning, Nicholas Batista, all leading at different stages, all losing the lead at various stages through various reasons. But talk us through the closing moments of that race for yourself. In the end, winning by just the 1 second over Andrew Cooper. I've got to say, one of the last things that we saw from you, other than you winning, of course, was you going straight on at turn 1, trying to take the race lead away, and you were able to still come back from that. How do you reflect on such a topsy-turvy race?
Yeah, it was good racing. It turned into a fuel mileage race. We all kind of pitted earlier than we thought, and coming out, I think that was the lap after I pitted, and I had a run and just was a little too late on the brakes, and so went by Nick, and him and Andrew undercut me. They kind of pulled away, but as I was going through, I knew I had to save fuel just to get to the end, because I think I even put in more margin than I thought I needed, but I was having to fuel save just to get to the end, and was able to just capitalize on some mistakes and held off Andrew at the very end. So.
And what about the season so far? I know Tyler Manning has won a lot of races, but how have you been finding it? Trying to keep up with him, trying to challenge in GT4 this season?
Yeah, Tyler's a beast. He's really fast. For me, it's just trying to stay near him as close as I can. And this Mustang, the GT4 is not a car I normally drive. I drive the GT3, and the GT4 is a little bit of a different driving experience. So I'm still getting used to it. But happy just to be able to race Tyler when I can. I know he's won, I think, every race so far this season, and this time was just able to capitalize, on his mistake. Honestly, his qualifying lap was super quick. And then even in the first couple laps he had up on us, he had created a gap. And so I don't think if he had run his race and didn't make any mistakes, he probably would have been another winner.
Well, it's you who takes the victory tonight in GT4. Congratulations on that, Zach, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. It's Zach Barrow who wins in GT4 tonight. We'll just have a quick chat to some other names who've popped themselves into the waiting room. First of all, Dave Bell, who we can chat to now as well. Welcome in, Dave. Good to have you with us. Let's just briefly touch on your race, first of all, here at VIR. How difficult was that out there tonight for yourself?
VIR is a fantastic racetrack, and you've got to be in top shape, top form every time you hit it, or you will have a race like I did, where it just seems like everything was going right, and then you spin, and it's a race to see who can be last. And you know what? It was still a great time and a heck of a race to be out there with all the guys. So. Yeah, how do you say you stole last place, but you still had a blast doing it?
As long as he did. But I have the same problem with VAR, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it as a racetrack, but I can't stop falling off. So there you go. That's the way it is. I'm not sure we've talked about this too much on stream yet, Dave, but I want to talk a little bit about how you got into Operation Motorsport, basically, and this eMotorsport League as well here, because not only are you here as a Operation Motorsport member, but you're also involved in the staff and the running of things here in the eMotorsport League now as well. But just tell us how you got into it in the first place, and how you've managed to not only manage that, but also get into helping organise here this league as well.
Yeah. Well, so this will be my third year with the organization, and I was sitting around watching TV with my wife not long before I joined OPMO, and we were watching some, I don't know, NCIS or some military TV show, and they were talking about PTSD, and she was just marking off all of the things that the character did that oh yeah, you do this and you do that, and finally she just looked at me, she goes, okay honey, we can bandy about with it, or you can go get the help that you need. And so I started thinking, well, I enjoy motorsports, maybe I can get involved in autocross or sim racing or something. And I just found an iRacing league and joined it, and then they introduced me to Operation Motorsport, and I raced a little bit in their sim league, and I thought, well, shoot, I can apply for a role as a beneficiary. And I never thought I'd get it, but I did, and it was so transformative for me that after my time as a beneficiary on Random Vandals Racing, I knew that I needed to figure out a way to help give back to the other veterans who were coming after me. I can't pull the ladder up behind me. I got to make sure that other veterans coming up can get that same benefit that I got. They can get the mental help that they need, and know that, hey, we're done with the military, we're done with that chapter, but we can still have a team and we can still have a purpose. And so when they needed somebody to help run the league this season, I was like, yeah, that's a thing that I can do, and it's just kind of gone from there. It's like my time as a beneficiary is coming to an end, but that just means that my time as a volunteer gets to start.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks to you for all that you do behind the scenes, not least for the league, but also for us as well. I've got to tell the viewer, helping us out with stuff behind the scenes. So thank you very much for all that. Thank you for chatting to us at the end tonight as well. Great to see you out there again, Dave, and I'm sure we'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely. I had to miss a few for real life races, but I'm hoping I don't have to miss any more. So thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. That's Dave Bell chatting to us at the end here tonight of the VIR round here for Operation Motorsport, eMotorsport iRacing League. 7th place in the GT3s in the end. We'll just stay with GT3 just for another moment and bring in Jason McSparran as well to have a chat. Jason, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Maybe bring back painful memories for you, but I do want to talk about the opening lap and just what happened there, because you were challenging right up towards the front. Your qualifying lap was excellent to put you up in the front couple of rows, and unfortunately a spin on the opening lap seemed to rather undo the day for you a little bit. Talk us through the opening of this race a little bit.
Yeah, that got a little carried away, just kind of got in my head after that, and I just couldn't get back to running clean laps till towards the end of the race. And I'm just glad I didn't take anybody else out with my and I knew the tires were cold and to be easy on the throttle, and you get into it and you kind of lose track of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is so difficult at any stage really, but especially in the opening part of that race. So how did you sort of go in the remainder of the race in terms of picking yourself up from that? Because as I say, it's sort of the worst time to have a problem. Yes, you've got the rest of the race to make up some positions, but obviously you have a lot of work to do from back there. How was the rest of the race recovering from that?
Oh, I had one other lap where car got a little squirrely, and I spun out right at pit entrance, and I just decided to go in for fuel and pitted like 3 laps too early to make it to the end of the race. But I just needed that to kind of reset and go out and run clean laps, and from there on it was a pretty decent run. I was catching guys in front of me and trying to make clean passes, and had a good time.
Well, congratulations on a good run tonight. Good to see you out there again, and hopefully we'll get to see you again in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, Jason, thanks for chatting to us, and as I say, hopefully we'll see you in a fortnight.
Yep, I will be back in a couple weeks. Thanks for the interview.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Jason McSparran, chatting to us at the end of tonight at VIR, and one more driver to chat to, Louis Rios, before we go. Louis, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Want to talk primarily, or first of all, I should say, about the switch that you've had to make tonight. I know we've only just switched to the LMP2s, it feels like, for this season for yourself, but you had to take a dip into the 992s tonight. How did you find it?
The 992 is definitely a fun car, but as far as switching to like pretty much a day before the race, yeah, that was a tough one. Bit of an adjustment.
Like they're similar either, particularly.
No, a bit different, yeah.
Which isn't particularly helpful, and couldn't have been an easier racetrack for you to get used to it around as well with VIR. Just what were the sort of the key points that you sort of had to learn very quickly on the job here? Because as I was saying through the broadcast, doesn't leave you much room for error, this racetrack.
Yeah, definitely. I think braking points is a big thing, and then how to trail brake a little bit better around these corners, because I was having some issue getting some rotation here and there. But yeah, you gotta be precise here, or you're gonna have some issues. I went off track a couple times and collected a couple black flags here and there. That slowed me down quite a bit.
I think everybody did. Well, certainly everybody went off track at some point. That's for definite. But yeah, you won't be the only one. Just briefly as well before we let you go, because I haven't spoken to you, I don't think, since the opening round. How have you been finding the new season with Opmo, with the new car and everything going on behind the scenes?
Definitely. Like I said, when I first hopped into the LMP2, I was hoping for a challenge, and it's definitely been a challenge, especially keeping up with the guys in the class. The car is a ton of fun. It just depends from track to track what you're gonna get. I just got to get faster and way more consistent here and there, and I think I'll be doing a little bit better. But yeah, a lot of fun. Love the car. I think there's some good races ahead of us.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll be able to drive it in a couple of weeks' time. We'll see, of course. But Louis, thanks for chatting to us as always, and yeah, we'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time.
Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks very much. That is Louis Rios, who rounds out our interviews tonight from VIR. That is just about it from us here on RaceSpot TV and the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League from VIR. As I mentioned, we'll be live next time in 2 weeks' time from Mosport with the next of those sprint rounds, the VIR Enduro to come this weekend for Operation Motorsport as well, of course. But next time we'll be here on RaceSpot TV will indeed be in those 2 weeks. What a great race we've had here tonight. 45 minutes of breathless action once again in this series. This perhaps more so than other rounds, you might argue. What a fantastic round of this championship. We'll be back for more in 2 weeks' time. As I say, I've been Neil Leary alongside Jeremy Scott with Miro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this broadcast. From all of us from VIR, it's goodbye for now.